I think you would agree with me that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to parenting, right? Every mom and every dad parents differently. I mean, maybe you're the type of mom or dad who shows up with boundless optimism and bursts of creativity, or maybe you're the anchor of the family with unwavering loyalty and impressive patience, but you might be the parent who confidently guides your family with sage wisdom, or maybe the parent who is deeply in touch with their feelings and their child's feelings. Now, you may be one of these parents and still you feel lost, uncertain, or just trying to survive. The struggles we face as moms and dads and with ourselves and our children, it's as diverse as our own personalities, right? Well, that's why the Enneagram is a game-changing tool in applying it to parenthood. Well, hey everyone, I'm Beth McCord, and this is your Enneagram Coach, the podcast. And I wanted to take you back in time into episode 83 because I wanted you to hear from two couples that have used the Enneagram in their own parenting and how it's been a game changer for them. And so we not only wanted to share a little bit more of our perspective, but we wanted to bring in some people who've been using the Enneagram in their parenting style along with their spouses. And so we have some dear friends with us that are going to help navigate the way. So we have a certified Enneagram coach through YEC, Libby Cole, and her husband, Tyler.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. So tell us about your Enneagram types, how long you've been married, and then tell us a little bit about your kids.
Sure. So we are going on 13 years of marriage this December. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we were together for 5 years before that. So ever since we were babies ourselves. But I am an Enneagram type 8, and I am a full-time Enneagram coach thanks to YEC.
Yay.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm Tyler. I'm a type 3. Learned that obviously when Libby became an Enneagram coach, and I'm a nurse practitioner.
And we have 2 kids. And I know you all can't see this out in the podcast world, but Tyler is a redhead, and we were blessed with 2 redheaded children also. So we have, I know, I am outnumbered because I am not a redhead, but we have a 7-year-old little boy named Witten, and we have a 5-year-old little girl named Ellison.
That's great to hear that you guys are in the mix of it as parents. 2 kids, that is so fun and so awesome. How long have you known your Enneagram types? How long have you been interested in the Enneagram?
We've really been working with it and really practicing the growth of it for a little over a year now. So we're still early on in it. We're still learning and growing, but have really been incorporating it for a little over a year.
Now, one of the things that happens when people find their Enneagram type, there's typically 2 questions that come up next. One, what is my spouse or a significant person in my life, whether it be a friend or a parent? And then number 2, what are my kids?
Yeah.
Was that similar for you guys?
It was, and interestingly enough, our 7-year-old has really taken a shine to it. And so he has typed himself, and he also likes to think about all the other types. And he actually just took over my Instagram account for this series because he loves the Enneagram so much also.
That's so cute.
Okay, now please, what's your Instagram handle? Because I'm sure everyone would love to see a 7-year-old, particularly a redhead, if I understand it correctly, wax eloquently on the Enneagram.
Yeah, my handle is at Enneagram to Expand because my company is Expand Coaching and Consulting.
Enneagram to Expand.
And he has done reels for all of the types and about how they play video.
There we go.
So there you go.
Yes.
That is excellent.
That's
That is
awesome.
so awesome. Well,
We love it.
tell me this. What has been one of the insights that you've gained into your, not just your kids and their personality types, but how you parent? What insights has the Enneagram given you as to how you parent?
So for me, being a type 3, it was a big realization to know that as a achiever, I have high expectations of myself and then others also. And so it was really eye-opening to see how that can translate into my kids and how they don't, need to have that on them all the time. So, I have to be mindful of that and just try not to be so hard on them.
Tyler, I was just talking with one of my dear friends. Matter of fact, he's the one who originally gave us Richard Rohr's book on the Enneagram in 2001, but he's visiting with us. And we were just talking, now that we have young adult children, anytime they make a mistake, we just automatically assume it's because of us. And he's, my friend made a comment. He's another mentor of his said that, your kids can't save you. And I thought, oh, that is such a provocative question for some statement to someone. Does it ever feel like that when your kids fail, that somehow that relates to your type as a 3?
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like, succeeding in school was always really important to me. And so therefore, I kind of expect that or want that for them as well. Sports also really difficult to watch because, obviously you kind of want them to be the best when not always.
Right. Yeah. You can't win them all.
That is correct.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that one of the interesting things? One of my favorite parenting books was by Dan Allender on how children raise parents, and that our children are a gift to us for something learning about ourselves. And so, I mean, what is that like for you? Just seeing, I have all these values and expectations and desires, and God's going to use it in my life to help me to become a better man.
I mean, now that I kind of can, relate to that, it is eye-opening. And I just, try to remind myself to be grateful for them and my family and, just use that, like you said, as a kind of warning call, I guess, in a way.
Now, Libby, what about you? What insights have your wonderful children given you about being an 8?
Right. Well, when I started learning about parenting and the Enneagram together, the words that come up for an 8 are demanding, controlling, intimidating.
I love the tone that you're saying that. That's awesome.
Right. Well, it was kind of like a sucker punch to me. I felt really convicted by those words because I realized, A, that they were true, and also that it was something that I wanted to try to work on. So once that was brought before me, I decided I needed to set out to kind of move away from those tendencies. And I know I don't get it right all the time. But I think with anything, with the Enneagram or any self-improvement, being mindful, being intentional about it, that's going to help you move into a healthier place.
Yeah, and I think, the biggest thing I've seen, since our kids are now 23 and 21, what I've seen the most is it's not that kids want you to get it right and be perfect. Well, okay, let me take that back. Sure, they would love that. But I think we all are in reality, and we know on this side of heaven that's not going to happen. What they're really looking for is us to own our own stuff and to apologize, like a real apology. That just means the world. A, I did this. B, I know it hurt you. And C, will you forgive me? And is there anything I can do to restore? That changes the game because so many times kids believe it was their fault when a lot of times it's on us. I know a lot of times my kids really didn't do anything, but I was frustrated or stressed about something else. And I reacted through my 9 type and they got, the bad and the sick. Now, sometimes the kids, they do their stuff, but I'm still responsible for how I react to them, even if they're doing something that is not correct. And so with that, I'm just really so thankful to hear how the Enneagram has just brought you guys so much awareness that you can enter into that conversation. And I know for Jeff and I love to hear from you guys too, is that when we talk about our types and how we're parenting, one, just kind of just talking about it and being aware, but also helping each other to see where we're weak, and also, but where we shine has been really beneficial. How has that been helpful for you guys to cheer each other on? Like, hey, you're amazing as a parent when you do this. But then also, how can you guys help each other, not call each other out in your weakness as in shame and condemnation, but in a way of encouraging them to grow? What has that been like for you guys?
Yeah, I'll jump in just because you were talking about the apologies, Beth. And I think that that's one of the places that I struggle as an A, because as you're saying that, I hear vulnerability, and that is always hard, right? And so sometimes I catch myself almost dismissing their emotions and kind of telling them, just get over it, or, stop crying. And I have to stop myself and think, no, we need to identify those emotions. We need to talk about it and let them feel what they're feeling instead of just telling them to dry it up and move on. And I think that was partially my lack of vulnerability in being in that space with them. And I don't want to encourage them to not show that vulnerability themselves.
Yeah. It's true. The more that we are vulnerable and transparent around our kids about what we're learning and growing, the more that they're going to have emotional intelligence because they're seeing it happen in front of them. Now, they may not be able to do it themselves right away, but over time, you're going to see that they're going to have the same understanding and vocabulary that you demonstrated, just like everything that we do. Like whatever, our kids are wonderful observers, but terrible interpreters. And so we want to help them to not only observe what's going on, but how to interpret it. So, and then what you're probably going to be able to do, because you're an Enneagram coach now, is to help them to nuance their heart so that they can apologize more specifically according to what's happening for them versus just a blanket old, oh, I'm sorry. Well, okay, that's great. But what are you sorry for? Are you fully aware of what this is or how it's impacting your brother or your sister or us? But if we don't demonstrate it first, they're going to feel on the defensive. But if we can show vulnerability, because we know that we're safe in Christ, then they can start to take that ownership as well.
No, if I understand it, Tyler, for type 3, sometimes vulnerability is tough for 3s as well. What's that been like to pursue your own growth, recognizing your weaknesses, but to do so in front of your kids?
Yeah, so that's great.
I love this.
Question.
The Enneagram, it really is a fun personality tool, and it's great when you first enter it. And then when you start to use it, you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is dealing with core issues in my life.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Oh, man. So, definitely what hits home with me is I work a lot. I bury myself in work. I hold a full-time job, 2 part-time jobs, just, it's just something I do, and so being an Enneagram 3, it really was eye-opening to me to realize, like, I guess why I do it, obviously, but then to also recognize when I'm doing it too much and it's creating a problem, especially with family, especially with kids. So I have to really find myself being intentional about that. So one thing that we started was work Saturday. So basically I do nothing on Saturdays except for family time. It's set aside, helps me fully focus on, my kids.
They're going to feel really cherished and loved and focused on in those Saturdays. They can look forward to, because they're busy too with their life and the during the weeks, but to know that they've got that time with dad, it really is super special.
Well, and this is one of the beauties that not only marriage it provides for us, but our kids provide us. That it's almost like a thermostat of what's happening in our own heart. They're definitely the recipients of our unhealthy patterns of our type. Beth talks a lot about the blind spot path. It's the number that we go to for those relationships that we are the closest to. And oftentimes when I'm working something out in my interior world, it comes out sideways towards Beth, or it comes out sideways towards the kids. If I'm able to model what humility and vulnerability look like, and being a recipient of grace, giving myself grace, but also focusing my attention to grow, that becomes a model for our kids. I mean, how many of us would love just to hear our parents admit to their mistakes? Like, just say you're sorry. That's all I'm asking for at this point. But can you imagine what it would have been like that this is a pattern for how I relate to you, and I'm sorry about that, and I want to improve on that. Man, I mean, that would sound like a miracle.
Well, and I think the great thing is that the Enneagram lets us know specifically what we're going to struggle with. And that's what you guys were just kind of saying. This, as a 8, I see these words, and yes, that's me. But we also don't want to lose sight on where we're so strong in our personality, like how we reflect Christ in a unique way. So talk about that. What are some really incredible attributes that you bring as a parent to your kids?
Well, as an 8, I am fiercely supportive of them. I mean, I will support them, protect them, provide for them, and so they know that I am there no matter what.
Right.
Like, I am their biggest cheerleader. I also really want them to be their own people. I want them to take responsibility. I want them to be strong individuals. And so, I'm helping to foster an environment where they can do that. I am very structured. And so I think that, that is good for children, I believe, to have some structure and to know that they have that stability and security. But I just love watching them thrive. And our son, I don't think I said earlier, he thinks he's a 1.
Okay.
And he's 7. So I understand fully that is still developing. Sure. He's still exploring, but that's what he relates to the most. And so I really try to, speak affirmations over him and tell him that he is loved, and, make sure that inner critic doesn't get too much of him, and that even when he makes mistakes or things happen, that he is still loved. And so, we've been really mindful with that. We think our 5-year-old might be a 7 or an 8. Yeah. We'll see. She's pretty wild and fun and out there so far, but she's still 5. So we try to just, have fun with her and love on her. But I do think, that 8 protector, provider really comes in big with me as like the mom.
I mean, you brought up one of the significant things of the Enneagram is the idea that your kids are a different type than you. And they need different things than you do as parents.
And they need different things from each other.
That's right.
Yes.
And so to realize that your type 1 child is going to wrestle with an inner critic, that there's divided loyalties. I know my mom loves me, but I still feel like I'm a failure. Yeah. It's very difficult, but as parents, to be able to emotionally coach your children, not according to what you want them to be or what you think should happen, but according to their Enneagram type, is revolutionary for kids to think that, my parents saw me, they understood me. Yeah. Well, Tyler, what about you? What's something that as a 3 that you bring to your parenting that is just amazing? I mean, it's all amazing. I mean, you're killing it. So.
Thank you. So I think as a 3, definitely, I think it's that I set a strong foundation on work ethic. I really feel like it's important to succeed and to be able to, what's the word I'm looking for?
Work hard to get there.
Yeah. I mean, but, you put in the work to be able to get what you want. You have a goal, you put in the work towards that. And then, the fun thing that I think is cool is as a 3, we always know the latest trends. Yes. So, always have the
I'd not thought of that.
Coolest stuff. Clothes, all that stuff. Our son actually, when he's in preschool, won best dressed.
Let's be honest, Tyler, you won best dressed.
That's right.
Yes.
He was cute in his tiny polo outfits,
He was awesome.
He won a superlative for it. So there you go.
That's awesome. Yeah. I don't think I've ever won a superlative.
But this is why I love the Enneagram, and I love talking about these things, because It's so opposite of who Jeff and I are as parents. And that's not a good, right, bad, thing. It is what it is. We had friends that are 2 type 9s. They're a married couple, and they were on our team, and they were talking about how they parent their kids and pray for them at night. They're like, yeah, we pray that our kids will have empathy and gentleness and kindness. And our type 8 event planner, she goes, what? Oh man. She goes, no, I pray that they're a warrior and that they're no be no. And we just all started laughing because that, God has called us to reflect him in his glory and the way he has given us attributes that reflect him. But we definitely have to be mindful of when those derail and get misaligned, and to own those parts of us, to ask for forgiveness so that we can, and then steward our kids and how God has created them. And that can be so challenging when they're very different than us. And actually sometimes even when they're the same, because I know Nate is a 6 and you're a 6, Jeff. And there's been times where it's like, man, you totally get him. And then there's times because you get him, it frustrates you.
Even before something happens, I anticipate it. I will say it caught my attention when you're talking about trends and dress. Like my apparel and my strategy for is what polos is Sam's Club going to offer? These Greg Norman polos every year. Like that's what I wear. That's my
and then I get a shirt and I'm like, oh, that works great. How many colors can I get?
So yeah, I remember a son, he was in college and he needed some shirts. I'm like, hey, just take these. And he gave them all back. Like that's not what I want, Dad.
Yeah.
So I don't offer that gift, and so I need to learn from threes. You have many
other gifts.
I have many other gifts.
Yes.
Sam's Club or polos aren't it?
Yeah. Well, guys, this has been so fun. But before we go, let's just wrap it up. I would love for you guys just to give a word of encouragement to other parents that are wanting or are using the Enneagram and their parenting approach from a gospel-centered perspective. What is some encouraging words you could give to them?
So as a type 3, I definitely think it's important to remember to be present in the moment and practice gratitude for what we have.
That is really good.
And I also think as an 8, but really just anyone, like your parenting can be a really great training ground for your own growth, right? Because your kids aren't judging you. Like they're going to love you unconditionally anyways. And so as an 8, being vulnerable with them, practicing patience with them, and making sure that I'm connecting more to my heart when I'm with them is really important. But it can almost be like this safe space to kind of try on some of those growth practices that we want to put into place for ourselves.
There's many ways in which people have talked about kids, particularly passages in the Bible about kids, that God in Acts 17 tells us that he's chosen the times and places and the seasons in which we live, that he knit us together in our mother's womb. We need to recognize that our kids are a gift to us, not just their presence, but really their sanctifying presence in our life, to reflect back to us as parents our need for Jesus. The Enneagram is never going to help you to know, observe, and transform in a way that you'll never need Jesus. There's always going to be a weakness there that you're going to need to cry out for help, but that's a good thing, and the Lord knows it and intends it. And the good news is that God is not surprised by our parenting strategies, both good and bad. He's fully aware of all of it, and yet he intends to glorify us as trophies of his grace. We're so thankful that you guys have chosen to spend some time with us and be honest with us about parenting as an 8 and 3.
Yes.
And if you're 8 and 3 parents out there, be encouraged,
yes.
Because the Lord has great intent for you.
Well, Libby, tell us one more time where people can find you.
Again, my company is Expand Coaching and Consulting. I offer individual, couple, and group coaching. And my Instagram is at Enneagram2Expand.
Well, thank you guys, and blessings to you as you continue this journey and growing as your kids actually raise you. Hey guys, we are back with another couple on Enneagram and Parenting. We've got Toya and Melvin. Hey guys, how are you?
We're doing good. How are you guys?
Good. Well, tell us a little bit about yourselves, where you're from, your family, your Enneagram type, before we dive into more questions.
Alrighty. I am originally from Muskegon, Michigan, and we currently live in Huntsville, Alabama. And my type is type 4, wing 3.
Yeah, I'm Melvin Poplar, the husband, and my type is 5.
It's
And
5. Nice.
yeah, so I found out a lot about myself.
At Tanya's prompting, I mean, was she the one that got interested into the Enneagram first?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that story. You know, when did you guys learn about the Enneagram and how did it evolve to where you are now?
You know, I had friends ask me if I knew what my Enneagram number was for about maybe 2 years prior to me actually looking into it. And when I did, each time that I took a test, I tested as a 2. And I was fully convinced that I was a 2 until I read the description for the 4. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is me from head to toe. So I had a good friend who came alongside me who's a coach. And I told her, I said, I don't understand how I could have so much so much emotional like intelligence concerning other people and then still have like this blind spot concerning myself. So I was just in a really hard place. And she began to describe, you know, the traits of a 4 to me. And I felt so vulnerable and exposed that it was a gift. She said, I thought you were a 4 just based off of how you dress, but I wanted you to arrive at that on your own. So I'm so thankful to have had such a healthy coach to come alongside me.
Now, and then whenever you had this amazing insight regarding yourself, as we've mentioned before, typically we immediately start to ask questions. Well, what's my spouse or the significant people in my life, and what are my kids? So, Melvin, what was that like when Toya introduced it to you?
To be honest, I was like, what is this? You know, and
Yep.
Well, the more I read about 5s, then the more it makes sense that I really wasn't that into it at first. And she kind of explained a lot to me, and I'm still learning a lot, you know. And so, but a lot of the tendencies are me. You know, I have a large tendency to compartmentalize, and when I was reading about parenting and some of my tendencies, they are true. I you know, with our kids, I tend to be very intense and the word isn't really controlling, but authoritative would probably be better.
Oh, interesting.
And that is me all and about feelings. When it comes to feelings and me expressing them, I can compartmentalize very well. And in terms of our children, you know, we have 2 daughters and 3 sons. And I with my daughters, I used to just, you know, when they start getting emotional and stuff, it was, you know, now I understand why I would, you know, like, why can't you just turn this off? It's not productive. But I know that. I know why.
Yeah. Well, and so then tell us your kids' ages and, you know, and are they old enough to know the Enneagram? And if so, what's that been like? Tell us a little bit more about them.
Okay, so we have 3 adult children. It's like we have 2 sets of kids. They are ages 18, 20, and 23. And older 2 know their type. We have a son who is a 4, and then we have a daughter who's a 4 wing 5. And that has been super eye-opening for us to see, you know, components of our own personality reflected, and then her incredible brilliance and uniqueness shine through. And then our 18-year-old, she's an 8. Well, I'm sorry, she's 18, so she's shaping up like a solid 8 right now. But then our younger 3 are ages 11, 12, and 13.
So what has it been like for you guys to learn about your type and see your parenting styles? What have you learned the most, maybe just recently, about your type and how you parent from that type?
You know what, Beth? I've learned through the awareness of the Enneagram, just coupled with radical grace, is I no longer use shame to try to control my kids, but
Wow.
I store up grace to console them.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Now, what's that look like for your own personal journey as a 4, and how does that relate to extending grace to yourself and then extending grace to your kids?
That's a good question.
You know, Jeff, I've got a great story about that. Just diving deep into, the wounding childhood message of a 4, I realized along my journey to certification that for one, my mom's a 5. So my observation was, if Melvin is capable of loving me so well, rather than me believe this message that says my mom has no interest in me, why not just express that to her, that that's what I've always longed to hear. And so I called my mom one day. I had a really raw conversation and shared with her how, because I'm a mom, I know that she loves me in my head, but I never felt it in my heart. And upon exposing that to her, she just rose to the occasion. And I was blown away because I thought people are just people. Like, I've made my mom out to be this boogie monster in the closet. And the reality is that she was a little girl with her own childhood messages. And so that was super eye-opening. And our younger 3 are adopted. Okay. And I realized that if here I am in my mid-40s, I still long to be affirmed by my mom or to know that she loved me, how much more do my boys need to know that they are so fully loved? Right. And so I had a really just heavy conversation with my boys and kind of probed their hearts to see if they might have an interest in hearing a message from their biological mother. Wow. And somehow God gave me the foresight when I first met their biological mom to ask her to record a message to them. I thought that someday they'd have questions and they would benefit from hearing in her own words. And so I asked all 3 of them individually if they could talk to their mom, what would they say? And 2 of them said, I would want her to know that I love her and that I miss her. And they were 1, 2, and 3 when we adopted them. So I was kind of shocked. But I could just see that human desire to connect with your mom. And so my next question was, if you could hear her voice, would you want to? And y'all, I thought that maybe someday they'd be 18 or in their college years. Sure. That's what I was going to save this recording for. And they both emphatically said yes. And so I played it to them, and their response was just tears. And when I checked in with them to see how they were doing, I said, "Are you okay, buddy?" And one of them said, "Yes, Mama, I'm okay because now I know that she loves me." Wow. And so they both said, "I know that she didn't give me away because she didn't love me. She gave me away because she loved me so much."
Yes.
Wow. And so I was so thankful that here I've believed this lie my whole life, that sent me into myself. And just having that insight of how much it impacted me to know that my mom loved me, I wanted to give that gift to them. Yeah. And so I hope that answers the question. Like,
oh man, that is incredible.
It's a beautiful story.
So I was adopted as well. And when I was 30 years old, found my biological mother, and had thought about it during my teen years. But one of the most interesting things that I walked away from the whole experience, and she has since died, and we had started to develop a relationship after we first met. But she was Catholic, and she had a pocket rosary. Now, they look like little coins, and then it looks like a little rosary around a ring with a cross at the top of it. But she carried that with her. And every time she bumped into it throughout her day, she would be reminded to pray for me. Wow. And as a type 6, wondering, does anyone see and can anyone help? As a kid, and all my experiences, to know that she was praying for me just meant the world. Now, there were other aspects and insights, but that's the one that I carried with me so much. Like she pulled me aside after a couple of years of being in relationship again, and she gave it to me, and I still have it, and I treasure it every time I think about it. Like it just hits right at my heart and the core of who I am as a man. And that, like you were saying, mid-40s, and you still want to hear from mom and dad, I love you, you're doing great.
Yes. And hear it in your specific way, which really is the core longing.
Yes.
And so the core longing of the 4 to hear you are loved and seen for exactly who you are, special and unique. And then as a 5, to hear your needs are not a problem, to hear that from your family would just usually for that person means the world. Melvin, does that kind of land on you that way?
Yeah. One of our sons didn't want to hear his mom, and we thought that was strange. But I thought it was strange. But Toya explained that he was the oldest, and so he still has some resentment, and that he feels like that he abandoned him, and he's still angry.
Yes,
and so that was it's interesting, for the younger 2 to want to hear, but the oldest not to. And that was just a different dynamic in terms of that interaction.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that the Enneagram brings to our parenting is that it helps to clarify or give vocabulary to what we're great at and what we struggle with as parents.
Yeah.
Now, Melvin, you started to speak to this a little bit earlier about maybe a little more authoritative, compartmentalized.
Yes.
What are some strengths that you bring to your parenting as a type 5?
I would say, I don't know. I think it's a blessing and a curse. Well, sometime I would be, I would be authoritative, and but that in a lot of ways that kept a lot of foolishness at bay. But still, I can still be soft, and I'm learning how to be less authoritative when my daughters, especially when my daughters are trying to reason to me, because they kind of go internal when they feel like they're not being heard. Okay.
Sure.
And so,
yes.
So I think a strength in terms of that is to not when they start talking emotional, like there was an instance when my daughter, she wanted to quit the band, and she had been in band in high school, and she was in band in college, and she wanted to quit the band, and it was a very emotional thing for her. And I was just like, well, there's a scholarship. You need to stay in the band until you you need to stay in the band.
That's right.
And it was a lot of pressure. It's like I'm staying in the band only because Dad wants me to stay in the band, and I'm like, I want you to be in the band because it costs money. And so I kind of took another approach in terms of just encouraging her. Look, why not look for other scholarships? Use your drawing, do something to replace the band money, and you don't have to be in a band. I don't want you in a band just because you get a scholarship. If you get money another way, that'd be good too. And so
yes.
And so without even updating me on it, she went and totally got a scholarship that paid for the rest of her college. And that was amazing. And she was like liberated, feeling like, she had a new lease on life because she didn't have to be in the band.
Yeah.
But
now, is this your type 8?
This is our 4.
This is our 4.
Okay.
Our daughter.
Okay.
A lot like her mom in terms of like emotional, and I'm learning to. I think my strength is to not to like, even though a lot of times I do not get emotional with them, I can still just be quiet and what's the word? The empathy. That's the empathy.
Yeah.
Like my wife has helped me with some empathy training to say, I can understand how this is difficult for you, and actually, use the correct language to make her feel heard, and not, and so that way, even though by default, I compartmentalize. It doesn't mean that
Mm-hmm.
I can't use tools to let my daughters, let my kids
Yeah.
in and be emotional and not, even with my sons, I know that they need, physical touch and hugs and stuff. And so
Right.
even
Yes.
times when I'm like, well, they're getting old, but they still come up and hug me and say goodnight and stuff like that. And I'm like, they need that because they're children and,
Yes.
and it's doing something for them. So
Yeah.
even though I tend to do that, I'm more conscious that I'm doing it and make sure I don't just cut off, you know what I mean? And so,
Yeah. Well, Toya, what about yourself? Tell me what are some strengths that you bring as a type 4 mother?
I would say affirming our kids' uniqueness and pursuing them, making sure that they understand that they are loved and celebrated for who they are and how they show up in the world. Definitely a strength. I think that it's amazing how much of a game changer self-awareness is. Our oldest son once told me how I used to invalidate his emotion and how I would always one-up him with like a story that was way sadder than his.
Oh, that's amazing. Sure. I totally get that. Yeah. Sure.
Yes. And so now that I can see and celebrate my own divine design instead of slipping into some shame cycle when my kids give me really honest feedback like that, it's just helping me to connect and to humanize and not go into perfectionistic mode or not go into the validating, like I was only trying to help. So it's
Yes.
just a healthy balance to be able to see them, to celebrate them, and to give them the liberty to make mistakes. When I'm passionate about something, I have that side of me that wants to do everything right. And I'm just grateful for the gospel that perfectionism is just way overrated.
Yes.
So it's helped me to give them grace, but it's also helped me to extend grace to myself when I feel like I've blown it as a mom.
Yeah.
So good. Well, as we wrap it up, what would you guys like? What's one word of encouragement you can give to all these other parents that are out there wanting to use the insights of the Enneagram from a gospel-centered perspective? What would you guys do or say as an encouragement to them?
So as a type 4, my one word would be enough. And that is you are enough as a parent.
Yeah.
And enough is enough.
Yeah, God gave your kids to you. You
Yeah.
are enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's my affirmation is you are enough. But my accountability is it's also enough is enough. Like it's enough. Your best is do your best and trust God to do the rest.
That's
Yes.
great.
Melvin,
Yeah.
what about you?
I think mine would be to sum it up is dedication in terms of like when we had our children, we dedicated them to the Lord. So it's really God's responsibility to take care of our children and we're just stewards over that. So I can't protect them at all times. I can't do anything. My whole thing is just to make sure that to put the burden on the Lord, and that way it's not I'm just praying to be the best parent that God would have me to be for my children and make the steps extremely easy to follow, if that makes sense.
Right.
Because
awesome.
they're his kids, so I just kind of try and look at it like that.
That's awesome.
Well,
thank you for sharing that. What a great reminder.
And thanks, guys, just for being so vulnerable and sharing what it's like to be a type 4 and 5 couple type.
I did want to ask one other question, but when we have spoken with other couples of color, and one of the insights that we've come to understand is that each community kind of values certain types more than others or values them in different ways. Would you be open to answering a question about, within your community, what kind of parents are more valued? What kind of parenting strategies or parenting values are kind of elevated over others? and then maybe how your unique parenting style as from your type, how that might be different. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I think that based on, for example, I've seen a lot of women who have been mistyped, a lot of African American women who have been mistyped as 8s because of the stigma that they're the angry Black woman, and they could be 5s that are in a healthy place. Or I've seen people maybe praised for being that protective mama bear that is the challenger who is an 8. And I've also seen maybe almost like it depends on what circle you're in. If you're in a church circle, I think that people want to like condition everybody to be a 2. Like, I just want everybody to, to help and to, or maybe, yeah, it's interesting. In terms of parenting, I can't say what type of male parent I've seen praised, because I really see Melvin affirmed so much for the type of father that he is. He was the father of the year a few years back in our city.
Wow.
And I think just his self-reliance and his tenacity to just persevere and figure everything out is esteemed really highly. But I have a compassion and kind of a burden for dads who are 4s, like for dads who are 9s, who their voice and their presence hasn't been valued and celebrated.
Yeah.
So, that's a really layered question, because it all depends on the context that it's in.
It does.
But that's something I would love to speak to. I think the Enneagram is an amazing tool, and I would love to see it more widely spread within communities of color, because I think that far too quickly we can demonize and mischaracterize that which we don't understand, and yet we don't know what we don't know, because coupled with the gospel is the most liberating tool I've ever seen. And it's just that, it's a tool. Right. So yeah, I'm sorry for that tangent, but yeah, that's
Toya, I am so grateful. Recently celebrated your certification, right? You just finally passed the becoming an Enneagram coach course. So we are overjoyed having you as part of the community and kind of paving a way and bringing insights just like what you both have regarding your own parenting and also how it relates to race and community. So grateful for your voice in all of this and willingness to take time to share about your experience. I mean, yikes, man, we covered a lot in this brief amount of time. You guys are awesome.
Yeah. Wow. I hope that you guys enjoy that as much as I did, hearing from Libby, Tyler, Toya, and Melvin. Man, what differences people have in their own parenting style, but how the Enneagram can be that game changer. But as always, remember that the Enneagram reveals your need for Jesus, not your need to work harder. It's the gospel that transforms us. We'll see you on the next episode.